The power of positivity 1. Your mind is the command center. What you focus on, you feel. Your mind determines your emotional destiny. 2. Positivity is not delusion. Its decision. Being positive isn't about ignoring problems. It's about choosing how to respond to them. 3. Emotions are habit. Strain them just like muscles. Emotional patterns can be conditioned and strengthened. 4. Energy is created by meaning. What you assign meaning to will either empower or disempower you. 5. Your state determines your destiny. Change your body, change your focus, and your entire emotional state can shift in seconds. 6. Gratitude destroys fear. You cannot feel fear and gratitude at the same time. Gratitude is the antidote. 7. Focus on what you can control. Positivity comes from progress, and progress comes from focus. 8. Language creates reality. The words you use shape your beliefs, emotions, and identity. 9. The power of physiology. Motion creates emotion. The way you move changes the way you feel. 10. Association shapes identity. Who you surround yourself with will determine what you tolerate in yourself. 11. Problems are gifts. Every challenge is an invitation to grow, not a reason to shrink. 12. Vision pulls you forward. A compelling future gives you the energy to push through any storm. Let me tell you something that will change your life today. Your mind is the most powerful tool on earth, and positivity, true, grounded, resilient positivity, is the fuel that drives it. People ask me all the time, Tony, how do I stay positive when everything around me is falling apart? And I tell them, because positivity is not a luxury, it's a strategy, it's not an emotion, it's a skill. So today, we're going to talk about how to unlock the power of positivity in your life. Not by just thinking happy thoughts, but by understanding how your mind, body, and beliefs work together to create your reality. Your mind is the command center that governs every choice you make, every emotion you feel, and every action you take. It is the unseen engine driving your reality, translating thought into sensation and sensation into behavior. When you realize that your internal dialogue shapes your external world, you tap into a power more potent than any circumstance. In every moment, your brain filters the endless stream of information around you, rapidly deciding what is important and what to ignore, what to embrace and what to reject. Those automatic filters are like invisible levers in a cockpit. If you allow them to run unchecked, you surrender control of your life to old habits, fears, and limited beliefs. But when you learn to engage those levers consciously, to direct your attention toward what serves you and away from what drains you, you steer your emotional state toward confidence, creativity, and possibility. Imagine for a moment that two people witness the same stormy sky. One remarks on the darkness and the threat of rain tightening in fear. The other marvels at the drama of the clouds, sensing the thrill of renewal that follows a fresh downpour. The weather hasn't changed, only their focus has. That shift in perspective happens inside the command center of the mind. By deliberately choosing where to place your attention, you determine whether you feel powerless or empowered, doubtful or determined. Training your mind to act as a wise commander rather than an anxious passenger involves 3 steps: awareness, interruption, and redirection. First, become aware of your habitual thought loops. Notice the stories you tell yourself about failures, risks, and limitations. Next, interrupt those loops through a simple ritual. Stop, breathe deeply, change your posture. Physical change creates a neurological window, dislodging you from the old pattern. Finally, redirect your focus toward a constructive question or image. What opportunity exists here? Or how would my most resourceful self respond? Repetition of this cycle rewires neural pathways, gradually replacing chaotic autopilot with intentional leadership. Over time, your mind learns to scan for solutions rather than problems, to latch onto strengths rather than shortcomings. You begin to feel an inner aliveness, a sense that you are the architect of your experience, not its victim. This doesn't mean you'll never face setbacks or negative emotions. It means that when adversity arrives, your first instinct is to ask, "What can I learn? And how can this make me stronger?" That choice launches you from a reactive spiral into a proactive stride, allowing you to harness challenges as fuel for growth. In effect, mastering your mind as the command center transforms ordinary moments into strategic opportunities, turning everyday life into a dynamic adventure of self-discovery. When you claim this power, you become the deliberate leader of your internal world, and nothing outside can ever hold you back. Positivity is often misunderstood as simply wearing rose-colored glasses or pretending that everything is fine when it clearly isn't. But true positivity is not about denying reality or living in a state of delusion. It is a conscious and powerful decision. The key difference between positivity and delusion is this: positivity doesn't ignore the challenges you face. It chooses to focus on how you will respond to them. It is not about living in denial. It is about choosing a mindset that empowers you to act despite the difficulties in front of you. At any given moment, we all have the ability to decide how we interpret the world around us. You can look at any situation, no matter how difficult, and decide what it means to you. Will you see it as an obstacle that limits your potential, or will you see it as an opportunity to grow, adapt, and become stronger? The world is not inherently positive or negative, it simply is. It's your perception that shapes it into either an empowering experience or a disempowering one. The choice lies in how you react. When you choose positivity, you take full responsibility for your reactions. This doesn't mean you suppress your emotions or pretend that everything is okay when it's not. It means that in the face of adversity, you don't allow yourself to be a passive victim of circumstances. Instead, you choose to act with purpose, to find lessons, and to remain open to the possibilities that lie in the challenge. For example, think about a setback in your life, perhaps a failure, a rejection, or a missed opportunity. It's easy to spiral into negativity, to feel hopeless or inadequate, but you can decide in that very moment to shift your focus. You can decide to take the lesson from the experience, to reflect on what you can improve, and to let it fuel your next move forward. In this way, positivity becomes a tool for transformation, not a shallow escape from reality. It is a decision to rise above circumstances rather than to be dragged down by them. Choosing positivity also means choosing to focus on what you can control, rather than wasting energy on what you can't. You can't control the weather, other people's actions, or every outcome, but you can control your attitude, your effort, and how you respond. The moment you accept that you are in charge of your internal world, you realize that no external factor can ever take away your ability to choose your response. This shift in mindset is incredibly empowering because it puts you back in the driver's seat of your life. You are no longer a passive observer waiting for circumstances to change before you can feel better. Instead, you are an active creator of your emotional reality. When positivity becomes a decision, it becomes a habit, and over time, it strengthens your resilience. Every time you choose to look for the good in a situation, every time you decide to respond with gratitude, optimism, or determination, you reinforce your ability to stay grounded in the face of life's ups and downs. It's not about ignoring the storms that may come. It's about learning how to dance in the rain. By making positivity a deliberate decision, you become less affected by the turbulence around you and more focused on how you can navigate through it with strength and grace. Emotions aren't random flashes of feeling that just happen to you. They are deeply ingrained patterns forged by repetitive thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors you've practiced over time. Just as you wouldn't expect to walk into a gym and suddenly bench press your body weight without training, you can't expect to react to stress with calm, confidence, and clarity if you haven't built those emotional muscles. Every time you habitually surrender to fear, anger, or doubt, you're reinforcing neural pathways that make those states your default. The good news is that neural plasticity means you can rewire your brain, replacing those old, self-limiting circuits with new, empowering ones. It begins with awareness. Catch yourself in the moment when anxiety tightens your chest or frustration clouds your mind. Don't judge the sensation, simply label it as a pattern you've played on repeat. Next, interrupt the loop by changing something physical. Stand up, take a deep, intentional breath, shift your posture, or splash cold water on your face. That interruption creates a neurological shockwave, breaking the autopilot loop and opening space for choice. In that space, Replace the old program with a new exercise, whether it's mentally rehearsing a moment when you felt unstoppable, speaking a power phrase out loud, or focusing on a vivid image of something that fills you with gratitude. Repetition is the coach that builds the muscle. The more frequently you practice stepping into joy instead of fear, curiosity instead of resentment, and hope instead of defeat, the more those states become your baseline. Over weeks and months, you'll notice that your threshold for staying stuck in negativity rises. Stressful deadlines become challenges to conquer. Criticism becomes fuel to improve, and setbacks become springboards for growth. This isn't about suppressing or denying negative emotions. It's about developing the skill to choose an alternative state whenever you need it. You are not powerless in the face of your feelings. You are the architect of your emotional world. By treating emotions as habits you can train, you transform yourself from a reactive passenger into a deliberate engineer of your own experience, capable of summoning courage, enthusiasm, and peace on demand. Every situation you encounter carries no inherent energy of its own. The electric charge you feel is born entirely in the way you interpret what's happening. When you label an event as disaster, you ignite a surge of fear, helplessness, and paralysis. But when you assign it a meaning of opportunity, you spark hope, resourcefulness, and action. Imagine two entrepreneurs hearing the same market downturn. One hears doom and retreats into self-doubt. The other hears the call to innovate and feels invigorated. It isn't the downturn itself that generates despair or inspiration. It's the story each mind chooses. Meaning is the lens through which your entire world is filtered, and that lens can be cleaned, sharpened, and reshaped at any moment. You can deliberately craft meanings that energize and empower you. When a challenge arises, ask yourself not just why is this happening, but what is this here to teach me? Shifting from victim questions to growth questions instantly reroutes your brain toward possibility. Neuroscience calls this cognitive reappraisal, and it's the secret weapon of high achievers. By reframing setbacks as stepping stones, you flood your physiology with the chemicals of optimism. Dopamine to drive curiosity, serotonin to steady confidence, endorphins to ignite joy. This biochemical symphony fuels creativity, boosts resilience, and turns obstacles into playgrounds of potential. Every day offers countless moments where you can choose energy over exhaustion. The next time you feel frustration rising, perhaps in traffic, in a tense conversation, or at the sight of an overflowing inbox, pause and reassign meaning. See the traffic jam as extra time to practice gratitude for the vehicle that's carrying you. Hear criticism as invaluable feedback from someone invested in your growth. Witness the daunting inbox as evidence that you have opportunities, relationships, and responsibilities worth tending. That simple shift doesn't just calm your racing heart, it charges you with vitality to take the next right step. Over time, this practice compounds. The meanings you choose become the narrative you live, and the narrative you live becomes the energy you carry into every room, every meeting, every decision. You evolve from someone at the mercy of external events into someone who orchestrates their own internal atmosphere. That is true mastery of energy. It's not about wishful thinking or blind optimism. It's a strategic act of interpretation, a conscious choice that transforms the raw material of experience into fuel for passion, purpose, and peak performance. When you own the power of meaning, you own the power to create unstoppable momentum in your life. Your emotional state acts like the gateway through which every decision, action, and outcome must pass, making it the invisible force that shapes your destiny. In any given moment, the quality of your state, whether you are filled with confidence, curiosity, and calm, or dragged down by doubt, fear, and frustration, determines the trajectory of your next move. Imagine standing at a crossroads. If you approach it from a state of certainty, you'll notice opportunities you might otherwise overlook. If you approach it from a state of hesitation, every option will look risky and unsafe. This isn't magic, it's physiology, focus and language working together to create an internal climate that either propels you forward or holds you back. Your physiology, from the way you breathe to the way you stand, sends powerful signals to your brain about how to interpret the world. A hunched posture and shallow breath whisper defeat, while an upright stance and full, expansive breathing declare I am capable. In the same way, the words you choose to speak to yourself, whether you say, I can't handle this, or I'm learning how to navigate this, or reinforce the physical signals and lock you into corresponding emotional loops. Finally, what you choose to focus on, your problems or your possibilities, serves as the lens that colors every perception and decision. To change your destiny, you must practice shifting your state on command. It begins with awareness. Catch yourself in familiar negative loops and notice the physical sensations in your body. Next, use a pattern, interrupt, stand up, stretch, take a few rapid, intentional breaths, or even raise your arms overhead as if celebrating a victory. That sudden shift in your physiology creates a neurological window of opportunity. In that moment, redirect your focus by asking an empowering question. What's one thing I can do right now to move forward? And choose language that reinforces belief in your own capacity. Repeating this three-step process, awareness, interruption, and redirection, conditions your nervous system so that, over time, you can summon a peak state of resourcefulness and resilience within seconds. When you learn to consistently manage your state in this way, you transform adversity into advantage. Deadlines become deadlines you meet, not deadlines that paralyze you. Conflict becomes a chance to practice empathy rather than a trigger for anger. And setbacks become lessons that accelerate your growth instead of wounds that keep you stuck. Your destiny isn't a matter of fate or circumstance. It's a reflection of the states you choose to inhabit day in and day out. By mastering your state, you reclaim the power to design the life you want, moment by moment, decision by decision. Gratitude is not a sentimental feeling reserved for Thanksgiving dinner or a scrapbook of happy memories. It is a strategic tool for rewiring your nervous system and dismantling the architecture of fear. When you focus on what you're grateful for, your body releases a cascade of neurochemicals, serotonin, to stabilize your mood, dopamine to reward your brain for seeking out positivity, and endorphins that soften the impact of stress hormones, creating an internal environment where fear has no foothold. In that moment of genuine appreciation, you physically cannot experience both panic and gratitude at the same time. One of those states simply dominates your physiology. By intentionally directing your attention toward what's already working, your health, your relationships, the basic comforts you might otherwise take for granted, you flip the switch from a scarcity mindset, what if I lose everything, to an abundance mindset, look at all I already have. This shift doesn't deny reality or gloss over challenges. It expands your perspective so that problems become pieces of a larger puzzle, not overwhelming monoliths designed to defeat you. In practice, cultivating gratitude becomes a daily ritual that builds resilience muscle memory. Begin by pausing 3 times a day, perhaps when you wake up at midday and before you go to sleep, and listing 3 specific things you appreciate. The key is specificity rather than I'm grateful for my family. Lean into I'm grateful for the way my sister listened to me without judgment yesterday, or I'm grateful for the sunlight that streamed through my window this morning, because the more detailed the focus, the more your brain tunes into positive details throughout the day. When you practice this consistently, your brain begins to scan automatically for moments of grace and kindness, making gratitude your default setting instead of fear. Over time, you'll find that the initial flicker of thankfulness lasts longer and burns brighter, so that when a threat or stressor arises, be it a tight deadline, a conflict with a colleague, or a sudden health scare, your first impulse is to anchor in what remains stable rather than racing toward worst-case scenarios. Moreover, gratitude deepens your capacity for empathy and connection, 2 potent antidotes to fear's isolating tendencies. When you acknowledge the good in your life, you're reminded that you're part of a network of support, people, communities, principles that have carried you to this moment. That sense of belonging reduces the dread of facing hardships alone and opens the door for vulnerability, trust, and courageous action. Instead of retreating into self-protective armor, you lean into collaboration and collective problem solving. In this way, gratitude not only neutralizes fear, but transforms it into fuel for creativity, collaboration, and authentic leadership. Gratitude also reshapes your response to setbacks. When projects fail, relationships fracture, or plans go awry, a grateful mindset doesn't minimize the pain, it contextualizes it within a richer tapestry of experience. You recognize that every obstacle you've overcome has strengthened your skill set and your story. This reframing invites curiosity. What lessons am I uncovering rather than panic, so that fear becomes a whisper rather than a roar? In the long run, gratitude doesn't just destroy fear in isolated moments. It builds an inner fortress of perspective, optimism, and courage that makes fear increasingly irrelevant to your daily experience. By training your mind to default to gratitude, you cultivate an unshakable foundation from which all challenges become opportunities, and fear becomes nothing more than a passing shadow in the light of all you have to be thankful for. Too many people exhaust their energy battling circumstances they can't change, the global economy, the weather, other people's moods, only to end each day feeling powerless and overwhelmed. Yet true power and positivity come when you turn your attention inward, zeroing in on the things you actually can influence: your effort, your attitude, your choices, and your responses. When a deadline looms or criticism lands, you can't control the deadline or the critic, but you can control how you prepare, how you interpret feedback, and how you act on it. This shift is like stepping off a treadmill of frustration and onto firm ground. With every step rooted in your own decisions, you move forward with purpose instead of spinning your wheels. When you focus on the controllable, you become a creator rather than a victim. Instead of wasting time complaining about office politics, you invest that same energy in strengthening your skills and building relationships that matter. Instead of fixating on the traffic jam that makes you late, you use the extra minutes to practice breathing deeply, listening to an inspiring podcast, or mentally rehearsing your most important talking points. In each moment, you choose whether you're going to drain your reserves on what you can't change or amplify your power by directing them toward what you can. This mindset is not passive acceptance, but active engagement. It doesn't tell you to ignore risks. It tells you to identify the actions that shift outcomes. Starting a new project, you can't guarantee market conditions, but you can guarantee the quality of your research, the clarity of your plan, and the intensity of your follow-through. Facing a relationship conflict, you can't make someone else forgive you, but you can control your willingness to listen, to express empathy, to apologize where you're wrong, or to set healthier boundaries. Focusing on what you can control also reduces anxiety. Worry is energy spent on problems without constructive outlets. When you break a challenge into controllable components, what steps you can take today, what conversations you can initiate, what habits you can build, you transform anxiety into action. A flood of small, intentional moves builds momentum that compounds into real progress, lifting your confidence and creating a positive feedback loop. In practice, make a daily list of 3 things within your control and commit to owning them fully. Notice when your mind drifts to things outside your influence. Gently bring it back to your circle of power. Over time, you'll find that your focus sharpens, your stress declines, and your results multiply. By turning your gaze from the uncontrollable to the controllable, you not only reclaim your energy, you also create a life defined by purpose, progress, and the unshakable positivity that comes from knowing you are steering the ship of your own destiny. A compelling vision is like a magnetic force that draws you through every challenge, doubt, and distraction toward the person you're destined to become. When you wake up each morning with a clear picture of the life you want, feeling the sights, sounds, and emotions of your future success, you ignite a level of energy that no setback can extinguish. Vision isn't wishful thinking or vague daydreaming. It's an emotional blueprint that programs your nervous system to scan for opportunities, solutions, and allies that align with your goals. In the absence of a strong vision, you drift, reactively responding to whatever shows up. But when your vision is vividly alive in your mind, it pulls you forward with purpose. You begin to make decisions not based on short-term comfort or fear of loss, but on whether each choice moves you closer to your desired outcome. This sense of forward momentum transforms obstacles into milestones. A closed door becomes a redirection, a failed attempt becomes feedback, and every detour becomes part of the adventure. Because vision engages both your conscious and unconscious mind, it changes the way you feel in the present. You don't merely hope that tomorrow will be better. You feel the anticipation now. That anticipation floods your body with dopamine, reinforcing every action that takes you in the right direction and making discipline almost effortless. You find joy in small wins, each task completed, each connection made, because each one is a brick in the path to your future. And on the days when fatigue or doubt creep in, your vision acts like a tether, reminding you of the meaning behind the grind. It helps you endure temporary pain in exchange for lasting fulfillment. Crafting a powerful vision requires two elements, clarity and emotion. Clarity gives your brain a specific target. I will be speaking on the world stage to an audience of tens of thousands, sharing stories of transformation, while emotion charges that target with urgency and passion. Close your eyes and immerse yourself in sensory detail. What you see on that stage, the roar of the crowd, the pulse in your chest, the gratitude on faces you've touched. Feel it as if it's happening now. Then return to the present, harnessing that emotional residue to fuel your next step. Over time, this daily practice forges a relentless internal drive. You become unstoppable not because life is easy, but because your vision is stronger than any barrier. When you let a compelling picture of your best future pull you forward, you don't just go through life. You race toward your destiny. Your mind is the command center. Everything starts here, right between your ears. Whatever you consistently focus on, you feel, even if it's not true. If you focus on lack, you feel scarcity. If you focus on gratitude, you feel abundance. Your brain is a meaning-making machine. It's constantly interpreting, categorizing, labeling. That's why two people can go through the same event. One breaks down, the other breaks through. The difference, not the environment, the interpretation. Educate yourself to become the master of your focus. Positivity is not delusion, it's decision. Listen, positivity isn't about pretending life is perfect. It's about deciding to be bigger than your circumstances. Delusion is ignoring reality. Decision is confronting it. With courage, with clarity, with purpose. It's not the events of your life that shape you, but your decisions in those moments. You've got to decide, who are you going to be in the face of adversity? Emotions are habit. Strain them. Most people think emotions just happen. No, they're conditioned. You don't have anger, you practice it. You don't have anxiety. You run the same pattern again and again until it becomes your emotional home. The good news, you can rewire that, just like going to the gym. You must train your emotional muscles, gratitude, courage, certainty, love. This isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about building emotional fitness. Energy is created by meaning. All human behavior is belief-driven. And beliefs are just the stories we keep telling ourselves. The story you attach to an experience determines your energy. Example, you lose your job. One person says, I'm a failure. Another says, this is my chance to do something better. Same event. Different meaning, one is energized, one is paralyzed. Reframe the meaning and you'll reclaim your power. Your state determines your destiny. Want to change your life? First, change your state. Your emotional state is the gateway to your decisions, your behavior, and your results. Your state comes from three things. Physiology, your body focus, what you're thinking about. Language, what you say to yourself. Stand up straight. Breathe deep. Speak strong. In seconds, you've shifted your state and your potential. Gratitude destroys fear. Gratitude isn't some woo feel, good thing. It's a survival tool because the moment you're grateful, you can't feel fear, you can't feel anger, you can't feel scarcity. Gratitude is the reset button for your nervous system. Every morning ask, what can I feel grateful for right now? Train it like a muscle, not just when it's easy. When it's hardest, focus on what you can control. People waste energy on things they can't change. The economy, the weather, other people's opinions. That creates stress, anxiety, helplessness. Winners focus on what they can do, not what they can't. What can you control? Your effort, your attitude, your response. That's where real power lies. Language creates reality. Words don't just describe your world, they shape it. If you say I'm overwhelmed, you feel stress. If you say I'm challenged, you feel growth. What words are you using every day? Are you calling it a problem or an opportunity? A failure or a lesson? Small shifts in language create massive shifts in mindset. The power of physiology. Let's get real. You can't sit like a jellyfish, breathing shallow, staring at your phone, and expect to feel powerful. Your body is your first line of emotional control. Move like you mean it, breathe like a warrior, stand like a leader, your posture, your breath, your motion. They generate emotion, change your body, and you change your experience. Association shapes identity. Who you spend time with is who you become. If you surround yourself with complainers, you'll learn to complain. If you surround yourself with creators, you'll learn to create. Energy is contagious. Positivity is infectious. Upgrade your peer group and you upgrade your standards. Environment beats willpower every time. Problems are gifts. Most people run from problems. Champions run toward them. Every problem holds a gift. It forces you to grow. Without resistance, there's no strength. Without challenge, there's no change. So next time you hit a wall, ask, what is this trying to teach me? How can I become stronger through this? That mindset is pure power. Vision pulls you forward, pain pushes us, but only for a while. If you want sustained energy, you need a compelling future. Where focus goes, energy flows. Create a vision so real, so meaningful, so emotionally charged, that it pulls you through fear, failure, and fatigue. Don't wait for the perfect time. Decide what you want. See it, feel it, own it. Conclusion: the power is within you. Positivity is not a trick. It's not hype. It's not blind optimism. It's a daily, moment-by-moment commitment to mastery. You want to change your life, master your state, condition your emotions, choose empowering language, move your body with intention, live with purpose. You don't get what you want in life. You get what you tolerate. So raise your standard. Decide now. Positivity is not optional, it's essential, and when you OWN that, truly own it, there is nothing, absolutely nothing, that can stop you.